This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? I'm Alice Stockton Rossini, and oh boy, has it been a rough, 2 years now for so many people. But you know, they say no matter how bad it is, it could always be worse. And we know that's true. And yet people who suffer the most are often the ones that seem best equipped to teach the rest of us how to live. Make It Count is the name of a book by Casey Gent, whose brother left her a real treasure.
Well, I lived with my brother most of his life. He passed away in 2008, but he struggled with cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic disease that affects the lungs, the pancreas, and eventually all the organs. But the book kind of fell into my hands because I recently moved from Florida, and as I was moving, I found my brother's journals. My brother lived a positive life every moment, and so it was awesome. He wrote the meat, and I pretty much polished it up.
So you didn't even know he was keeping this journal?
No, not at all. It was kind of a legacy that he left, and impacted so many people while he was alive. And then now he's doing it still that he's gone.
Why does it seem that the people who are suffering the most in this world have the most positive outlook?
It's amazing. They know that they don't have a lot of time on earth, and so they want to live every day, quality moments. That's why my brother said it's called Make It Count, because my brother always said, make it count every day.
You know, do you feel like you were meant to find these journals and you were meant to publish this book?
Yes, it is what I'd like to call a God wink. Kobe always wanted people to know that no matter what they're struggling with, a disease, some kind of depression, anxiety, a move, a loss, that they can get through it in a positive light. Keep going, keep the faith. And they all seem to be like that, and other people just really don't see how good they have it.
I was just talking to a friend today, and we were talking about how COVID is destroying so many families, so many relationships. And when you look at the big picture, you feel guilty for feeling bad because so many people have it so much worse.
Talk about guilty. I never realized, because I was the younger one born into it, but he wrote about when we were younger, we had the bicycle club, and he'd act like he was going back home to get some money, but he's just sitting there struggling to breathe. And it was stories like that. Just when he went through comas, he ended up getting osteoporosis, diabetes. Like, I never realized how sick he was because he didn't let on about it. So I did feel pretty guilty and pretty low for a little bit, but it was great at the same time. So it was very cathartic. It was awesome. Like, he's still talking to me after he's gone, and he's going to make you feel good. He always made people feel like they're, the number one in the room.
Is there a particular story that stands out for you?
Yes, there was one time after he had a double lung transplant when he was 13. So he went from a wheelchair and oxygen to just no attached, no needles, no IVs. And we moved to Florida. He could breathe better. And he dressed up as Superman. Everybody always called him Super C. And he won this contest, and he won $500. And then he went to another place and won another $500. And he was just talking about how everybody cheered him on and how great that felt. And I wasn't there because I was too young to get in the places he was going. But just hearing him tell a story about how great it was for people to cheer him on when he's normally the one cheering others on. He ended up taking about 180 pills a day to keep the lungs from rejecting his body. The doctors told us it's like trading one problem for another, but he always came out of it. He always came out of it.
How old was he when he finally passed?
29, which is pretty old for a cystic fibrosis patient, because they told my parents they didn't know if it'd be 3 days, 3 months, 3 years. So he lived a long time, and he lived every day quality.
What a wonderful tribute to your brother.
It was something. It was great to do. It was really just, sometimes I'd just stop and kind of have a good cry and all that good stuff, but I'd get right back to it because I knew that's what he would do. With the cystic fibrosis, they've been on their website, the video and the book, and they kind of help us push that. And then Dad started a foundation for him called the Super Kobe Foundation, and through our books, we're kind of donating there too to help CF kids and just anybody that's got something going on. Anybody, like maybe they need some gas money to ride to their cancer appointments, they're getting radiation or chemotherapy, and so we'll kind of help them out, or keep somebody in their house, maybe keep their electricity bill 1 month or something like that. But it's not just CF, it's because Kobe wanted to help everybody.
Really nice job, Casey. Thank you. All right, we're going to dig right in with Cameron West, whose frustration with the military is clear in her title. Please don't be offended. Her book is called A Great American Dick Punch, The Battle After the Fight. Hear her out.
Well, my brother was killed in Iraq in 2008. He was blown up, and, the Army told us that there was nothing to see, and neither did they give us any of his paperwork. Well, we're in shock. We don't know this stuff. And so then about 10 years later, my mother gets a thing about getting her dead son's information. And it was like, whoa, 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 we need to look into this. He was never granted his proper posthumous due process that was mandated by Congress for his sacrifice for his nation. So the book is to advocate for all of our brothers and sisters that wear the cloth and die in the cloth, that they deserve their posthumous due process.
Explain that.
So posthumous due process, pretty much in layman's terms, are death rights. Whenever you sign up for the Army, you have death rights. And there is a protocol to those death rights. And then there's a lot of things with religion. They have to, accommodate certain things. But, with us, pretty much they bypassed all of that. All the mandates they had, nope, none of them practiced. They wanted to get them in the ground quick because, it was gruesome, and, sign the family up for some Gold Star hug circles, which I did go to one, but I'm just really not the hugging one, I don't hug it out, it's not my style.
What did you find out 10 years later?
10 years later, I found out that the Army broke pretty much every congressional mandate on his posthumous due process by not granting him one. It means no paperwork, which means it is now a classified open homicide, and there is no collateral damage report explaining how the soldier was murdered because it's classified as murdered.
What? Why?
I know, it's strange. There's only 4 categories of death, and I learned this because I flew up to Dover, and I told him, I was like, I want prints authenticated with the USA seal on it. There was a 600-man night assault on a village called Mugdadia, and he was on foot. He was the combat medic with Charlie companies, and somebody from a rooftop detonated him with a cell phone.
Oh my God.
The thing is they said that to us, but when I went and I actually identified him, he had a face. He looked really good. And my family asked to see just a foot, something for closure. And we were granted nothing. And we had no clue about military posthumous due process. It was all just swept under the rug. Literally, a wool rug was pinned around him and an empty Army uniform. And he was full body wrapped. And that was that. I actually went to go pick up the autopsy photos and be the first to identify who he is, my brother. So the whole book documents me doing this journey and this experience. It's my after action testimony of going and dealing with that and what that feels like, and to have a humbled place, a peaceful strength with very hard information to take in. It's a great testimony of, definitely resilience and advocating for my tribe of my people. I've tried to get help from the JAG and the Army. It's too hot. Nobody wants to touch it. He's buried in Arlington National, full honors. He was posthumously ranked up to corporal from a specialist. They did all of that, but their failure, that is it. It's, did you do your paperwork? How did the soldier die? They failed completely. I even have the SOCOM chatter of them losing his body while we're at war. It's horrible. Nobody would claim him. It was unreal. I've called the Congress people. I've called the world, and I'm like, world, please help me. All we can do is advocate so that we have better, SOPs for the future of people. And this stuff doesn't happen. I mean, it's been horrific. Most people I talk to, they don't do this sort of thing. It's very weird. No one wants to deal with me right now. The guy that I'm talking to in the Pentagon, he's the U.S. Army Inspector General. I'm like, sir, this has the Army's name written all over it. And this soldier should have an Army representation because he has been wronged inside the Army.
What is it that you want out of this?
I mean, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. So, because the government works under a thing called the Ferris Doctrine, which was adopted by the Supreme Court in 1950. And you got to remember, 1950, we had segregation. We didn't have women present in the military like we do today. And so this law, it gives them sovereign immunity, like we're dealing with today with drug companies, sovereign immunity. And by law, I can do nothing for my brother. There's no reform. There needs to be reform of the Ferris Doctrine to uphold men and women's due process. Without due process, there's no freedom.
All right, Cameron, I appreciate your fight. Thank you. Speaking of fighting the good fight, Tina Pullum hopes to be a beacon of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel with her book, Gracefully Broken, Yet Restored.
It talks about my personal journey of the challenges that I faced, things that happened to me when I was young and going through. I recently had to go file for divorce on my 37th wedding anniversary. Right after that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer that is metastasized to both of my lungs. And just kind of going through to say, life sometimes it happens and hardships happen. But if we continue to have the faith or just be encouraged, that we can get through the journey.
Wow, that's a lot you're going through.
Yes, some of the things that I had to go through and deal with is being molested various times, even raped as a young girl, having 2 abortions, being rejected by my father, being the only child, just kind of going through some of those different hurdles. And what kind of brought me through was holding on to my faith. I grew up in a Christian home, so God was always present in our relationship as far as our faith. So just trusting Him and just holding on to the faith that I had, it kind of walked me through the journey. And even though I went through different obstacles, I took it as stepping stones that always took me to another level. And with that, going through my journey, I considered it in one chapter of my book, it's called The Pain, the Pitfall, and the Platform. Because of my journey, it allowed me to do several women's events where I've had over 1,000 women, different events from 50 up to 650 women coming to celebrate them. Because of the journey that I've walked through, I've learned to turn back around to encourage other women and show them how to encourage themselves. And men, because I've also done workshops at our local domestic violence shelter for the men and the women that were there. So even went to Kenya and did a workshop, Princess Masterpiece, for some girls that were sold into marriage at a young age that were rescued, and did a event for them. But I plan to do another workshop called Who's Loving You, to encourage women to love who they are. Regardless of their story, regardless of where they've been, but just kind of to show them how that no matter the storms, we're all going to go through storms, but it's like how I walk through the storm makes a difference on how I get to the other side, because we all going to face something sooner or later. Some going to be a little bit more than other, but still, I can still get to the other side. I can still see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can still have hope. I can still live. I can still laugh. I can still dance, regardless of the circumstances or the afflictions that are around me.
Oh my gosh, Tina. Are you going to be okay?
I'm going to be okay. Yes, because even with all of that's going on with me, I can truly say, as far as all of the side effects and everything that's supposed to happen with the chemo, the radiation, and on and on and on, and the surgery, and now even with the cancer in my lungs, I have no side effects. I am planning my 62nd birthday party next year. I am making all the decorations as we speak. So I am still living. I am still moving forward, because while I'm walking through my journey, guess what? I'm able to encourage a whole lot of other people to say, look, storms will come. Just because I'm going through the fire, I don't have to smell like smoke. I don't have to look like what I've gone through.
You're amazing, Tina. Thank you so much. If A.J. Le Bourget's writing is anything like the way he describes his story, Lake Marie, you are in for one fun read. And notice the book cover. He did the artwork.
So the obvious is what's on the back of the book cover, which is Janet is a young woman anxious to leave the control of her parents. She believes she can find solace in an old Midwest waterfront property previously owned by her ancestors. There, she quickly discovers all is not as she envisioned as her own sanity is put to the test, while the village's missing persons and dead body count rapidly increase. Neighboring acquaintances and family begin to reveal haunting age-old secrets, while she, in desperation, attempts to separate fact from fiction before it's too late. Now, this takes place in Antioch, Illinois, which is a real place not far from where I am now. And I grew up spending my summers and holidays at Lake Marie in our vacation home. And a lot goes on in Antioch. There are murders, there are disappearing people, things happen, but this book is a fictional account of such. And we would go up there when I was a kid. I was always amazed when a neighbor would tell us, somebody released their alligators into the lake and they attacked a swimmer and killed that swimmer. And we believed it. But we always noticed how different people reacted to those stories. And that came out about the time of the Great White Shark movie attacking people, and there were all sorts of rumors that Lake Marie attaches to Lake Michigan through channels, and bull sharks could swim through there to the fresh water. And some people would be afraid to go in the water. Other people didn't care. And I always found that interesting, how everybody always had a different opinion. So when I wrote the book, I wrote it in that manner where each of the different characters in the book have their own opinions of things going on. Now, I started writing this book quite a long time ago when American Horror Story came out with their first season. And my book was very reminiscent of that. And then I thought, I can't do this. They already did it. So I had to start it all over again. And I didn't know what to do for a long time with it. Then I was watching Dallas with my spouse. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to write more like this. I want it to be real. I'll address things such as the supernatural, but I want each character to have their own opinion of how they may believe in it or not believe in it. And I didn't want to write a typical horror story. I wanted the characters to come together, not to be about this group of teenagers who go into the woods and get murdered and who gets murdered first and who gets murdered in the worst way. I wanted the people to come together as a community and build friendships and to develop the characters, because this is the first book in what will be a series. And each character has a different viewpoint. Some believe in things, some don't. And it addresses everything from A to Z. There's alcoholism, bribery and blackmail, cannibalism, death, but everybody views it differently. I never come out and really say that any of the bad stuff really happened. I mean, I don't say Janet's house is haunted, but Janet believes it is, and other people don't believe it is. And I wanted the reader to read it as they wanted to read it, because how they read it will really change the whole meaning of the story. So different people can read this book and get a completely different perception on what they're reading.
You must be great at author talks.
I am a storyteller, and I want people to read it for the story. And people who do that really love it. I just got through doing book signings, and we will start with billboards and the radio ads. You are the first of the radio communication I've had. And I'm spending the winter off writing The Shores of Lake Marie, the next book in the series. So I will be busy with that.
If I visit Lake Marie, can I get a copy of this book?
Absolutely. I've been doing a lot of book signings there. The people are always very, very nice.
All right, AJ, thank you. You gotta love a book that ties in the Jersey Shore, because I am telling you, there is nothing like the Jersey Shore, and there's nothing like The Adventures of Rocky. Don't Be Afraid, Rocky, by Deirdre Palm Adams.
Yeah, that has been the success of the book. No question about it. Heartwarming story of a dog who is my dog, by the way. She is a real puppy, and she has a lot of fears. And she's in this book, she's afraid of loud sounds, the dark, and being alone. So she gets lost on the beach with all of her greatest fears in front of her, and she meets friends along the way that teach her that bravery and courage were inside of her all along. So the scene is set after a loud noise spooks her, and she flees from the house out to safety to her favorite place, which is, of course, the beach. So she finally stops to rest, and then she's confronted with, the sky is darkening, the noises are all around her, and she's all alone. And then she meets three fun beachy friends that find her and show her that if she stays calm, she's going to find her way home. Charlie the crab, Susie the starfish, and Sammy the seagull. Charlie shows Rocky how to be brave and how to have fun in the dark. Susie tells Rocky to be grateful that she's able to hear sounds that she finds frightening because Susie can't hear them with her tiny starfish ears. And Sammy helps her find her way home by having faith in herself all along. So Rocky and the characters are brought to life in this book. I'm so excited to say through colorful illustrations by my niece, Lindsay Morano. She's an artist and was the perfect choice because my entire beach house is adorned with her artwork, and she's amazing with color, and she's an incredible eye for art.
That's great. What kind of a dog is Rocky?
She's a poodle, and I've grown up on the beaches of Ocean City, New Jersey. I love the beach, and when you walk along the beaches in New Jersey, all you see is people walking their dogs. So Rocky always was such a joy. She would wander on the beach, meet new friends, her dog friends, and she was always this spunky, happy dog. I've always been a lifelong poodle lover. I've only had poodles, but I knew there was something exceptional about this one. It was love at first sight. And Rocky's love for the beach was immediate. As soon as I put her on that beach, she was just a little dog. She loved it. So it was a treat every day that we could walk her on the beach and spend mornings. But I saw that Rocky had a lot of fears, and she's afraid of a lot of things, like loud sounds, the dark. Planes go overhead all the time because they have the banners in New Jersey, the advertising banners on the planes. So they fly overhead, and every time a plane would fly overhead, Rocky would run home. She was terrified of it. So I thought it would be cute to write a book about overcoming fears and how characters on the beach could teach her to overcome the fears. I actually practice the law of attraction. I love the law of attraction. It's my guiding light source. And I practice every day gratitude, positive mindset, the joy of living. And it's a philosophy that teaches you that your thoughts and energy determine your well being. So I thought, that Rocky could be an amazing vessel to bring that message to children. So it's based on a belief, that thoughts form energy that are positive. So if Rocky could change her mindset and her friends help her do that into a positive mindset, she could overcome all of her fears. Little kids love it. It's so funny. First of all, they love the illustrations. They all immediately, see Rocky and Charlie the crab and the purple starfish. But kids really relate to it because kids are always afraid of something, right? So they identify with Rocky because Rocky has all these fears that kids kind of relate to: loud noises, the dark, things like that, getting lost. So, it just really helps children identify with that. And then, just focusing on good things where all her friends teach Rocky, don't be afraid, Rocky, you can do it. So there's a lot of positive affirmations in the book. One of the bookstores in Ocean City, it's Sunrose Words and Music, picked up the book immediately. We've done 2 book signings for it. The Art Museum in Ocean City has also picked up the book for their in store. So we've done a lot of fun things with book signings. When I did the book signing, I brought Rocky to the book signing. It was super fun. And she has a fan club. So Rocky is pretty famous in the town of Ocean City in New Jersey. She has her own Instagram. It's Rocky Dash the Beach Poodle. And then on Facebook, it's Rocky the Beach Poodle. So she has a lot of fan clubs. But I have to say, some of the biggest successes just come from the hometown Ocean City in Sunrose Words and Music. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks so much, Deirdre. David Doherty works for the U.S. Air Force in Fairbanks, Alaska, and he has one active imagination and time to write Friday's Curse, Daughter of Two Worlds, Part 1.
Has a lot to do with when I was traveling into places like Korea or Saudi Arabia and just being the foreigner. So I wanted to kind of capture that feeling. So it involves a Hollywood actress named Sarah Friday. She suddenly, very suddenly in fact, finds herself in a entirely different world of magic that is fading in the way of technology. What I mean is that magic has become less popular, less well liked, and so people have been turning to technology. It's right around Victorian levels of technology. She gets pulled through a magical portal, literally pulled through her bathtub. So when she finds herself in that world, it's the very natural reaction is to find out what just happened and how do I get back. But she finds herself way in over her head. It really gets in her head, the experience of being a stranger in a strange land, of not knowing what's going on and finding out little by little exactly how dangerous things can get sometimes.
Is there something that she has to do there before she can get back?
Well, it's primarily an investigation of tracking down the one who pulled her there in the first place. At least that's the way it starts. She's completely and entirely alone to make her own way among the people she meets. But they're not quite us. They don't have quite the same culture, quite the same ways that we do. She meets with a very intellectual, wizardly sort and a very boisterous sharpshooter. And those are primarily the ones that are helping her try and find her way.
Is this the first time anything like this has ever happened in this world?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So she must be something special. Or a big mistake, one or the other.
Exactly.
Does this book end here, or is it a series?
It is a series, yes.
How many books are in the series?
Currently, I'm working on the second one, but I'm thinking that there will be 5. That is subject to change, but most likely 5. I have an author website, dadocherty.com. No periods or anything like that. I have my Facebook page, which is just D.A. Docherty, and I'm found on Twitter at D.A. Docherty1.
And do you share things about the book there?
Yes, I do. Right now, I'm mainly trying to build awareness. Mostly things like small tidbits, little details here and there.
Like what?
Here, she's a famous actress.
Okay.
There, she's nobody. Nobody knows who she is. In a way, that's kind of liberating to her, just because she's not used to being able to just talk to people anymore.
Right. Or walk around without being...
Right.
She might like it there, David.
Exactly.
All right, David, we are out of time. Download all the podcast at 710WOR.com and see our books on Amazon, Apple iTunes, and Barnes & Noble. For the Page Publishing Book Club, I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.